The main reason I chose to do a video project over a traditional paper, and thank you by the way for letting me do this, is because I wanted it to apply more to my business. So in class, and in every class that I've ever had that's been about operations management or continuous improvement, it always talks about production, right? Because that's the easiest thing to kind of quantify when you talk about the principles that we've learned in this class. However, my world isn't in production. It's not in big business. My world is small business. I own several small businesses with no more than 5 employees, and so I wanted to do a video project so that I could better explain to myself and better explain to my staff the principles behind continuous improvement, behind operations, behind lean. So the video project not only allows me to do that more effectively, but it also creates buy-in from my employees. As I went around and I interviewed each one of them or asked them questions about how we do things, our processes, not only were they able to give me some great information that I would have never come up with myself, but they were also interested in what was going on. It created buy-in. They want to know, they want to help, they want to see how this changes things and see how it makes it better. So that's why I chose to do a video project over a traditional paper. The ultimate purpose of this project is to identify certain inefficiencies with some of our processes, and in some cases to identify the lack of a process entirely. Our business is so new and so small that a lot of things that should be standardized or written down into a process aren't yet because we're so new. So that's what we're trying to do here, is create some standardization and increase efficiency. As I spoke with several of our employees, we identified a few key problem areas in our business. We're a retail store that deals in women's apparel, and some of our problems are hard to identify because we're so small. In a production chain or in a production facility, it's a lot easier to identify a bottleneck and say, okay, things are getting slower at this point, or this process is taking too long or being reworked too many times. In a small scenario like this, it can be a little bit more difficult to identify. That's why I chose to interview our employees. They are here every day. They are witnessing these things day in, day out, and I decided that their take and their opinion was going to be far more valuable than mine. A major key point that I wanted to focus on was our work in process. For us, what that is basically backlog in our back room. Do we have extra things hanging on the shelves? Do we know where they go? Is our shipping table stacked with orders or new arrivals that need to have something done with them? We needed to create a system, a process where our shipping table stays clean so that we know that that isn't work in process building up. We know that things are going where they need to go. I asked one employee her thoughts on keeping the shipping table clear. She came up with a brilliant idea, as simple as it is. Put a sign behind it that says exactly what the shipping table is for. That it's not a shelf, it's not a rack, and it is meant for received and outgoing items only. By reducing that work in process, we also reduce our rework. If we have a visual management system set up where people know exactly what's happening with each item of clothing, particularly in our back room, it decreases the probability that that item will be reworked, that it will be repriced, retagged, if it's damaged, that it won't go back out onto the floor and be sold as a defective item, etc.
In the past, when they've come into work, they don't always know what needs to be done or what they're in charge of or what I need from them. So this way we're kind of all on the same page. We know what each person's specific responsibilities are so that we don't step on people's toes or do the same job twice. And we can make sure too that we're not missing things.
Sometimes I think that I don't exactly know what to do because sometimes it's already been done, and we all sometimes have jobs that we think we are in charge of, and then another person thinks that as well. So then, like for instance, doing Facebook things, I will get on the computer, log in, and think that I'm going to spend a bunch of time working on Facebook posts, but then someone else has already done it. We're working on our Pinterest, trying to catch up on that, but someone's already done it. So it's kind of hard to know whose job is which and when it needs to be done and who's going to do it.
One of the key points that I chose to focus on is expected time. I want our employees to expect when certain things will happen. And the best way to do that is to set a schedule that is visual, that everyone can see and that everyone is held accountable to.
It depends on the photo shoot. Sometimes I'll have like a few days notice saying like, oh, I'm planning a photo shoot, would you be able to do it this day? Sometimes it's less notice, so it's kind of the day of and is like, oh, are you free this time? Can you make this happen? So if I'm available, I'll come, and then we'll come to the store, and sometimes clothes are already picked out so we can just get ready to go. Sometimes we're finishing up, grabbing sizes before we head out, and then sometimes Kelsey has an idea of where she wants to go, but other times we'll just kind of play it by ear and kind of drive around and find some spots.
I think there could be some improvements on photo shoots. I think like timing wise, like we need to be here like when the models are here and when everyone gets here, and then just like having clothes picked out beforehand so that we're not taking more time to like get clothes ready, and then having like locations and things picked beforehand, and like instead of day before or 2 days before like planning photo shoots, like planning maybe a week in advance, giving people more time so that we can use different range of models, because then we have people who are like expecting to be there the next week.
It was interesting interviewing our employees one at a time and asking them about our efficiency or inefficiency and to see what suggestions they had to make it better. Almost all of them suggested that we have a calendar in place that they can see, that everyone can see and be held accountable as to what is happening when are photo shoots happening, what new items are going to be released, what date do items need to be ordered by in order to be here in time for that photo shoot next week. All of them wanted to know what was going on when and how they could help. So we responded. I went over to an office supply store, bought a beautiful whiteboard calendar that was big enough that everybody could see it from a distance. We bought multicolored markers so we could identify certain events by color and that everybody could know what was going on. The whole process of buying and installing a big whiteboard calendar in our back room took less than 30 minutes. In 30 minutes time, we had the calendar up, we had important dates and events scheduled on it, and that 30 minutes saved us countless hours for the months to come. Our employees know what's happening, they know what they need to do in order to get ready for each event, and in addition to just being a calendar, we also wrote each employee's name in the notes section of the calendar with their responsibilities. For example, this employee is responsible for posting these items on Facebook. This employee is responsible for handling these social media posts, etc. What that did is it created efficiency. Instead of having to wait for Kelsey to tell them what to do, they could walk in the back room, take a look at the calendar, and know exactly what needed to be done.
I mean, I've texted her before and just asked her like, hey, is there anything you need me to do?
Sometimes I text her and we wait for Kelsey to tell us what to do.
Or sometimes I text Kelsey and ask what needs to be done.
Through this process of doing a sort of Gemba walk in our business, the biggest waste we were able to identify was the problem of waiting. Our employees spend a lot of time waiting around for something to do. On a day-to-day basis, like if you're working, how do you know whether or not you're completing your job?
Kelsey tells me. A lot of the times I do the like regular routine, and then after that's done, then you just go to the boss and ask what else needs to be done.
So what do you do if she's not here?
Sometimes I text her, and other times I just look at the social media and try to respond to people and all that stuff. And after that, you just kind of wish people came in.
On a day-to-day basis, sometimes it's hard to know because we don't have like, well, we do now, but we don't have set like responsibilities. So it's like hard to know if like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing or if I'm being helpful in any way. But I think Kelsey's good at letting us know like what she needs help with, and we're willing to help where she needs. So
I mean, Some days I feel like I'm not very good at like knowing what to do if there's stuff that needs to be priced. I don't have like the price for them until Kelsey gets here. So it's like if she would like text me that ahead of time, I could have that done before she comes in, you know? So sometimes it's like I'm waiting around waiting for like her to come in before I get my prices on or anything. So if that were done ahead of time, because she does all the pricing, no one else does that, and that's totally fine. But sometimes it makes it so it's less productive because then I'm here not doing anything and I could have that done while I'm here.
We need a visual management system that shows our employees what needs to be done, what their specific assignments are, what's coming up during the next week that they can help us get ready for. We just need to be better organized and show our employees what needs to happen. One area that we were majorly lacking in, that was brought to my attention by one of our employees, is visual management. Our employees have no way currently of seeing what needs to be done, what's already been done, why certain items are in certain locations. For example, oftentimes we have a piece of clothing hanging on our rack in the back room that is just there. So an employee will come in for their shift, they have no idea why that piece of clothing is there. Is it damaged? Is it on hold? Was it a return? Does it need to go back out on the floor? Does it need to be priced? They don't know because it's just hanging in the back.
Okay, so this is one of the new organization strategies that we are implementing into Moonbeam to help us stay organized with our new arrivals. If you look up here, we have different signs. We have new arrivals, on deck new arrivals, returns, items to be priced, and damaged items. So we picked these 5 items because we feel like this is most of what we get in our back room, and we want to make sure that we organize them and are getting them out when they need to be out and getting everything priced. If there's anything damaged, we need to return it to the vendor. If we get returns in, we need to check the return to make sure everything's still good with the clothing items, and then we can put them back on the floor. Before we did this organization, some of the problems we were having where we didn't know when certain items are being released. We receive a lot of items every single day, and a lot of new items, and we didn't know when they were being released. Because there's so many of us working, we didn't know like which items had been priced already, or if there was a certain person who was going to be pricing things. So now we just have a clear view of when things are going to be released, what things need to be priced or have already been priced, and how we can better serve our customers by giving them new arrivals every week instead of just sporadically throughout the season.
So I think the different visuals that we have put in place are really important because then each of my team members know what is expected from them, because in the past when they've come into work, they don't always know what needs to be done or what they're in charge of or what I need from them. So this way we're kind of all on the same page. We know what each person's specific responsibilities are so that we don't step on people's toes or do the same job twice, and we can make sure too that we're not missing things, because that's one thing that can be hard if we don't have visual cues and have things organized in plain sight. Things can kind of fall through the cracks and not get done by anyone. So this way I think things are going to get done more efficiently, more timely, and we all can hold each other accountable and make sure that those things are getting accomplished. I hope that from these changes that we're making, that first off, that my team members can feel more fulfilled when they come to work because they'll know exactly what is expected of them, and hopefully they'll take pride in their job and the different responsibilities that they have. I really think that the changes we're putting in place will help us with our customer base too, because as humans we really are creatures of habit and routine. And with the calendar and the way we have set up our schedule going forward, we have set deadlines for different things. For instance, a big one is our new arrivals. We were kind of just releasing new arrivals whenever we had time to before, and then customers weren't even aware that we had fun new arrivals out. This way we've decided to drop our new arrivals every Monday, and we've called it Moonbeam Monday. So it makes it extra fun, and also our customers then know what to expect. They know that new arrivals are going to come out on Monday at the same time every week, and I think it also helps kind of hype things up, because then our customers can anticipate new arrivals coming, and we can kind of build up the excitement going into Moonbeam Monday. So I really think having like the organization and being able to build up more excitement behind our products is going to help attract new customers and retain those customers. So I'm really loving the changes that we've made. Now the hard part will be to keep doing it in the future. So I think it's really important for us to communicate as a team. We need to make sure that we know what each other's duties are, and also hold each other accountable to make sure that we're getting things done that need to be done. Especially for me, I know I'm not always the best with routine and organization, so this is really going to be helpful for me to do a better job with what I need to get done, and my team members can also hold me accountable to make sure that I'm meeting my deadlines. We just really need to communicate, and if there are any kinks going forward, we can work those things out with communication. And we also just need to keep the visuals in place, because the visuals just reinforce the habit of what you're supposed to be doing.
How do we keep this going? How do we make sure that the changes that we've implemented stick? It's human nature to regress back to what we know, back to our old habits. I can't expect to keep it going by myself. I can't expect Kelsey to keep it going by herself, and that is why we have enlisted the help of all of our employees. Hold us accountable to these new systems. Make sure that we are putting things on the calendar. Make sure that we are letting you know exactly what we expect of you all the time. That's what this new visual management system is all about. Keeping score, letting us know that we're winning. If you can take a look at the board and know that everything on the list has been checked off for the day, you know that you've won, rather than waiting around for someone to tell you that you've won.